Hello and welcome to Wednesday's programme.
Your headlines tonight. Who protects our protectors? After 2/3 of servicewomen faced unwanted sexual behaviour last year, ITV News is given rare access to a military court in Wiltshire.
It was a free-for-all for who could sleep with you first. It was a competition, and then I reported that to a more senior officer, and then he ended up groping me.
Also tonight, homelessness charities across our region say they're heartened by the Prime Minister's plans to get every rough sleeper off the streets by Christmas.
Reports that wildlife has been dying at a Bristol park as the council investigates a possible botulism outbreak.
And for 60 years, it's helped communities in need around the world. We take a look at the Disasters Emergency Committee. Good evening. First tonight, women who were sexually abused and assaulted while serving in the armed forces have told ITV News they were failed by the systems which were meant to protect them. Latest figures reveal 2/3 of all servicewomen faced unwanted sexual behaviour last year.
Well, last night we heard shocking testimony from some who suffered sexual violence, and tonight, as part of a new documentary called Her Fight, ITV News has been given rare access to a military investigative crime unit and a military court. The Ministry of Defence says staff there are working tirelessly to root out offending from the armed forces.
But is it protecting victims? Georgia Scott has been speaking to women whose experiences include references to sexual assault and abuse. Some are played by actors with their names changed and voices altered using AI to protect their identity.
I've been raped by 12 different people multiple times and sexually assaulted. I've lost count, honestly.
It was a career promising pride, but instead brought mainly fear.
I've lost count of the amount of times I've been groped on my chest and between my legs.
ITV News has spoken to many women who served in the British military who say they were trapped inside a toxic culture. Kate joined the armed forces hoping it would change her life, and it did, just not in the way she'd ever imagined.
It was a free-for-all for who could sleep with you first. It was a competition, and then I reported that to a more senior officer, and then he ended up groping me.
After months of feeling isolated, Kate was raped by a different colleague. Armed with text messages from her attacker apologising for his behaviour, she assumed the process of reporting the assault would be straightforward. Far from it. Both the groping incident and the rape allegation were handled inside a court-martial. That's different from a civilian criminal court where there's a judge and 12-person jury. At a court-martial, there's what's known as a judge-advocate, and instead of a jury, the case will be heard by 3 to 6 members of the military, known as the board.
There was heckling in the courtroom and your whole personal life is put out there. The groping was found guilty and he was discharged from service. And the serious sexual assault was found not guilty. I just feel like he wasn't really robbed of his career in the same way that I was.
After the court case, Kate was medically discharged from service because of her mental health issues. And it's women like her that the Ministry of Defence claims it's committed to better supporting. Historically, anyone wanting to report a crime would go to the military police or their own chain of command. But in 2022, the Defence Serious Crime Command was set up. The unit is staffed by members of the RAF, Navy and the Army, but any investigation sits outside of someone's direct chain of command. It's hoped that that will mean more victims feel confident enough to come forward. But is the process truly independent? Anyone serving in the military can report a crime to the civilian police or the military police. Staff here say they'll be supported through any route.
We want to secure the right outcomes for victims by investigating professionally, and in 2023 we set up the Victim Witness Care Unit, which provides a really high standard of trauma-informed, victim-focused support.
It is in that specialist unit where staff say they try to overcome the many challenges that victims face.
From our initial engagement to the progression of the case to the court-martial, we can dedicate the time and commit the time to developing that relationship with that individual.
Staff here supported one soldier who we're calling Gemma. She was sexually assaulted by a serving officer at a party.
I felt extremely angry initially, and a lot of my anger was driven towards the army and facilitating an environment to allow somebody to behave in that manner. I now understand that it's the individual's actions and the individual that should be held to account rather than an organisation.
Gemma's attacker was discharged from service and jailed, but she continued to serve.
Things will only change with the military if people report individuals. But I also believe that it's not victims' responsibilities to report to protect other victims. It is the military's and any organisation's responsibility to hold people to account and set the standards.
There are, however, still widespread concerns that women are not being protected.
The key challenge is having to deal with systems which are essentially internal military systems, which are not independent. We've had cases where somebody from the chain of command has emailed the military police investigators to offer a view on the matter that they have just opened.
The military has promised to root out offending from the armed forces, but has it delivered? According to latest Ministry of Defence figures, there were 406 investigations into reports of sexual offences in 2025. The same year, just 57 people were found guilty at a military court. That same year, there were 85 investigations into reports of rape, and just 6 people were found guilty.
It is a judicial process. What we must ensure is that judicial integrity, and of course, once it goes to trial, you're in the hands of the board, the jury.
Is it fair that the case is heard by serving members of the military?
Yes, I think it is. I think it's fair on the basis that I know what goes into bringing a board to the court. We have a detailed deconfliction process to ensure that no member of the board is in any way connected to any party to the proceedings. That's vitally important.
There's a criticism that the military is marking its own homework by using those internal systems. What do you say to that?
I am aware of those debates. Our judiciary are also independent. And in fact, to dispel another myth, they're not actually employed by the MOD, they're actually employees of the Ministry of Justice, and they're appointed to serve in the court-martial.
After years of feeling ignored, the women we've spoken to do hope that change will one day come. I wondered what advice you would give to a young woman who was thinking about joining the army or the armed forces.
Don't not join. But what I would say is use that voice more. Don't be silenced. Don't be scared.
Well, Georgia joins us in the studio now. Georgia, we've heard some absolutely harrowing stories over the last couple of days, and Kate's story tonight was also incredibly shocking, isn't it?
Absolutely, and just like the other women that we've spoken to, Kate says this kind of inappropriate behaviour she described, she says it started when she began serving. Fast forward a few months, as we heard, she was then assaulted by a senior officer who she grew to trust. What she told us, as well as those other women that we've heard from across the 2 nights, was that it isn't just the trauma of being abused or assaulted, but the trauma, they say, of not feeling believed, not feeling listened to or taken seriously.
What about the Ministry of Defence? What have they had to say about this?
Yeah, well, we put all of the women's experiences to the Ministry of Defence's lead on justice and conduct, Sam DeFord. She said there's lots of hard work going on to try and address those cultural issues and ensure that the investigative and justice process, she says, is supporting victims.
Defence has recognised it really needs to grip this, it needs to deliver real change. But I think we're also not naive that there's one silver bullet that is going to solve this. Listening to those voices of victims and survivors, we've instituted a number of independent routes that folk can go down now. So, for example, whether it's going to the Victim and Witness Care Unit, whether it's going to Defence Serious Crime Unit, whether it's going to the civilian police, which is absolutely fine as well. But I think also what we are seeing now is those cases starting to go through the service justice system. We don't have a backlog, so they're going through at greater pace. I think a testament to the support we provide is we have virtually no folk who are withdrawing from cases once they reach court. Defence is taking action regardless of your rank, whether you're the most junior person or whether you're right at the top of the organisation.
I mean, it's a really clear message, isn't it? But the word culture is the word that keeps coming back time and time again as we've been looking into this issue. Everyone that we've spoken to agrees it isn't something that is fixed or solved overnight, these issues. But the women that we've spoken to have told us there is an absolute urgent need to overcome those issues as soon as possible, so women like them can go to work feeling safe and feeling protected.
OK, Georgia, thank you.
Well, there were some very distressing topics discussed in Georgia's report, so it may be a good time to remind you that there is lots of information and support on our website.
And you can see a full version of Georgia's investigation called Her Fight on the West Country section of ITVX, or you can head over to our website. Right, let's bring you the rest of the day's news. And homelessness charities across our region say they're heartened by Andy Burnham's plans to get every rough sleeper off the streets in time for Christmas.
Well, the South West will get almost £43 million in extra funding to provide emergency accommodation. Areas of Bristol and Somerset have some of the highest numbers of rough sleepers outside London. Well, our political correspondent Alicia Fitzgerald is in Westminster for us tonight. Alicia, this feels like a significant announcement today.
It definitely does, and putting an end to rough sleeping was actually Andy Burnham's first ever pledge when he stood outside Downing Street on that first day as Prime Minister. So that was a bit of a hint of just how important this would be to him. There's now been a bit of extra news, though, of course, some extra funding, but also a timeline as well, where Andy Burnham has said that every rough sleeper will be offered accommodation this winter. As with most of Burnham's policies so far, devolution really is at its heart, and it will be down to individual mayors and local authorities to decide the priorities for their area and where exactly each element of the cash they get will be funneled to.
This is the right thing to do. I feel very passionately about this. I spoke in Downing Street when I came into office about putting a care for people at the heart of everything that we do, and that can't be done and if you've got people who've just got nowhere to go and are left sleeping in the streets. In this country, I don't think in this day and age anybody should be forced to sleep rough. And actually, when you do leave people sleeping rough, it can often cost more to the state because people can be in and out of A&E and in and out of hospital beds. And
policies that seek to address the issue of rough sleeping do usually go down pretty well, but that doesn't mean there aren't questions about it too. For example, is moving more rough sleepers into temporary accommodation actually just disguising the issue of homelessness rather than solving it? And are enough affordable homes being built? Well, the homelessness charity Shelter say that they feel really encouraged by Andy Burnham's announcement, but they are asking some questions and do encourage him to go even further with his pledges that he made today.
So what we currently have is 177,000 children who are trapped in temporary accommodation. That's often siblings sharing a bed, families trapped in one room, sometimes uprooted miles away from the communities where they know and their support networks. And the reason why we have spiralling homelessness is because of successive governments' failure to build enough social homes. Social homes are the only genuinely affordable type of housing for many families.
So Andy Burnham isn't the first Prime Minister to say that he wants to put an end to rough sleeping, but what he is doing here is trying to create a clear dividing line between himself and his predecessor Keir Starmer by putting this so near the forefront of his governmental agenda. The devil will really be in the detail, though. This is part of Andy Burnham's big summer tour, and when it gets to September, he'll be back here in Parliament, and that's when the real scrutiny will begin. We've heard from opposition MPs already today many questions about the logistics and the funding behind this policy.
OK, Alicia in Westminster, thanks very much for that. Well, next tonight, Bristol City Council says it's investigating reports of a suspected botulism outbreak at a lake in the city.
Yes, locals reported swans and ducks had been falling sick or dying at St George Park. Richard Payne is live there for us tonight. Richard, I tell you what, this must be quite worrying for the people there.
Oh, very much so, Seb. Yeah, distressing too, not least for the people who are fishing out these dead birds from this man-made lake. And in fact, just before you came to us, another victim of this problem. A duck was retrieved from the area just behind me by those twigs, pulled out, another victim of this terrible disease. And local people are shocked. I spoke to a few a little earlier. They love this park, they love its wildlife, and they didn't even know that this had happened, so they had some interesting things to say.
Absolutely packed with children and families, so it's a bit alarming. I would not let my kid like that close to that, because you can obviously tell anyway, it's obviously like really dirty and stuff.
It is really sad to see the water levels as low as it is, and no filters and things like that, yeah.
Let's talk to the expert, the lady who actually dug that fish out of the lake here, Amy Lovell from Bath Swan Rescue. Thanks for joining us, Amy. Yeah, another one to add to the list. It must be very worrying for you.
Yeah, deeply so. This is a not very nice part of the job, but very essential. So, main way that botulism is spreading is through these deceased birds. So this is the 8th one now that we've retrieved. We've only had one that has responded successfully to treatment, unfortunately, which was one of the cygnets here. So, yeah, pretty drastic with what we're looking at.
And the water here, as in many places, is very low at the moment. Yes. It's stagnant water. You can see how diseases thrive in that scenario.
Yeah, so with botulism, you essentially have a bacteria that can produce a toxin under the right set of conditions. So those sorts of conditions we're looking at are high temperatures and then very low oxygen levels, which is what we're dealing with here at St George. And yeah, that just allows the botulism to thrive, which is what's getting to the wildlife.
Important to stress, though, Amy, that this is a very low risk to humans. Is that right?
Yes. So with botulism, you have different strains. So the avian strain is strain C. The sort of botulism you'd think about with people from ingesting food and stuff. Strain E, so completely separate. Yeah, this is very much just affecting the wildlife, but obviously that in itself hugely upsetting for everyone here.
Yeah, Amy, thank you very much. Amy Lovell there from Bath Swan Rescue. Well, some people here tell us they've told the council about the problem way back in May. The council are now responding and telling people obviously not to get into the water, not to feed the animals, and to keep dogs on a short lead and away from the water if at all possible, to try to stop these deaths growing.
Yes, all very good advice and quite worrying as well. Richard, thank you very much. Richard Payne reporting there.
Now, for 60 years, it's connected us, the British public, with war-torn, disaster-struck communities around the world and closer to home. The Disasters Emergency Committee launched its first TV appeal in August 1966, and since then, it's raised more than £2.5 billion through 80 appeals, using television to get its powerful message across.
Yeah, some amazing work, isn't it? From the Ethiopian famine of the 1980s to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, the DEC has helped get vital aid to those in need. On World Humanitarian Day, Hannah Ludlow has been looking back at the organisation's work.
The first TV appeal for the Disasters Emergency Committee came after an earthquake in eastern Turkey in 1966. The BBC and ITV both ran appeals, raising the equivalent of more than £10 million in today's money.
The DEC system is unique because it actually gives the aid agencies access to broadcasters' airtime in a way that no other organisation can. The three criteria for an appeal are need, the ability of the agencies to help, but above all, public willingness to fund the rescue operation or the aid operation. And that public willingness to help comes from watching the coverage and feeling that there's something I would like to do as a citizen to help these people.
One of the DEC's early appeals in the 1960s was for war victims in Nigeria. Mike Aronson was a young aid worker on the ground.
I went as a relief worker. It was extremely powerful, life-changing experience, really, for me. I think people are just compassionate and generous and want to be offered a safe, reliable way of doing good. And that's what the DEC provides.
Throughout the years, the DEC has impartially supported communities impacted by man-made disasters like war and natural disasters. Among the largest of those was on Boxing Day in 2004, when an earthquake off the coast of Indonesia caused a tsunami which hit 7 countries. Madara Hettiarachchi was visiting family in Sri Lanka at the time. She now works for the DEC.
It felt really eerie because we didn't know what was happening. We were thinking of floods. And then as the hours went by, the true picture emerged. And just the sheer devastation at the time, there was rescue efforts coming in. So the scale was huge.
A DEC appeal raised a staggering £392 million. That would be more than £700 million today.
Any donation you're able to give is hugely appreciated.
More recently, events like the Concert for Ukraine, broadcast on ITV following the escalation of the conflict in 2022, played a part in the overall success of the appeal. In 2024, the DEC began its appeal to help people suffering the consequences of the conflict in the Middle East. And just last month, the DEC began its 80th appeal after the earthquake in Venezuela. In just 2 days, the British public raised almost £9 million. That total now stands at £20 million.
Millions of lives changed forever in just moments.
60 years, 80 appeals. The DEC has for decades provided a generous British public with a way to help people in their hour of greatest need.
Well, earlier we were joined in the studio by Becky Mansell, a content manager for the DEC who's based in Bristol. I started by asking her what her work involves.
So as content manager at the DEC, my role is really to help tell the stories of people who are caught up in the humanitarian crises that we respond to. So I work with 15 of our member charities, as well as local photographers and videographers on the ground to capture really powerful testimonies and images of people affected, but also aid workers who are on the front line of the response, so that we can feed back to the UK public to show them not only the scale of the humanitarian need, but also the difference that their generous donations can make to families who are facing unimaginable circumstances.
And those images and those stories form parts of appeals, don't they? And those vital appeals. In fact, that's you in the background with the with people in Lebanon. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So I was very lucky to be able to travel to Lebanon in October last year, where I got to see some of our funded programmes firsthand. We were running a storytelling workshop with 8 women who'd been displaced by the conflict. They were originally from the south of the country, and they relocated to Beirut. And these women, their lives had been completely turned upside down. They'd lost their homes, they'd fled with their children and just the clothes on their backs. But when they reached Beirut, they found a community centre that was supported by funds from our DEC Middle East humanitarian appeal and supported by our member charity Christian Aid. And they shared incredible stories with us about how they were able to access clean water, food, psychological support at the centre, and as well as kind of accessing skills as well to be able to improve their chances of rebuilding their livelihoods again in Beirut, so that they could support themselves and their families without having to rely on aid in the future.
Sure. It's incredible work. So how much do these appeals actually help?
Oh, they help massively. I've been with the DEC since the Ukraine humanitarian appeal, and in every appeal so far, I'm very lucky to be able to see firsthand the scale of the response work that goes on amongst our members. And people can get involved via the website. All the information's there. Yeah, absolutely. They can go to dec.org.uk. All of the information's there, and we're also on social media, so they can engage with all of the stories and the images that we capture there as well. Amazing. Becky, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for having me. Becky Mansell, who came to see us earlier.
Weather time, and this was Redland Green in Bristol this morning. Look at that, that's beautiful, isn't it? Which already has an autumnal blanket of fallen brown leaves covering the ground because of the hot weather.
Well, over in Westwood in Wiltshire, it's looking a bit greener, but there's still some leaves covering the wooden floor. Well, Philippa Drew has your forecast.
A clear start makes way for a day of ancient discoveries. TUI sponsors ITV West Country Weather.
Hello there. Well, it certainly has been a bit of a mixed bag weather-wise over the last 24 hours. It's been quite a while since we've had to say that. Rain cleared to showers, and through the next couple of days, quite a few more showers on the cards. Having said that, it will become drier into the weekend, and for all of us, we will see a much fresher feel to things, both by day and by night. So low pressure actually in charge of our weather at the moment. It sticks with us through tomorrow and into Friday. Further fronts coming our way, providing the focus for some showery conditions. But as we head into the weekend, pressure will build once again from the west, and that will settle things down once more. Out there at the moment, there are a few showers around. These continuing on and off through the rest of this evening and overnight tonight. Moving through fairly quickly on the brisk westerly breeze, but one or two heavier ones are possible. And the breeze in turn will actually keep things on the mild side, holding those temperatures up in the low teens for many of us. So tomorrow morning we pick up on those showers from the word go, some sunshine around as well, and I suspect as we head into the afternoon the showers will become a little more widespread, a little more frequent, and perhaps a touch heavier in places too, even with the odd rumble of thunder or bit of hail thrown in for good measure. Still plenty of sunny spells in between though. In the sunshine, temperatures a little suppressed compared to recent days though, highs around 20 or 21 degrees Celsius. Now, as we head overnight into Friday, it's really more of the same. So low pressure still in charge at this point. Further showers drifting our way on a fairly fresh northerly breeze. But as I said, into the weekend, high pressure starts to build. We'll settle things down and it will be much fresher by day and by night.
TUI sponsors ITV West Country Weather.
Philippa, thank you. I saw some rain on my way home from a lake last night.
Yeah, it was raining by me this morning. Nice to see the rain, isn't it?
I know. Stroud covered in rain. Nothing better.
Right, well, that's it from the two of us. I'll have the late news for you at 10:30.
After the break, though, the ITV News continues with Mary. But for now, from all of us here, bye.
Bye.